Again, welcome. This is our webinar series, We Take Care of Us, the Justice Teams Network is putting on. Shout out to my teammates, Kat Brooks, who is our usual host. She'll be back with us next week and for the forward-going webinars. And also a big shout out to Daniel Robello, who is our community organizer here with Justice Teams Network and has been crushing it, working on setting up all of these webinars that so far have just been so excellent. And we are extra excited for what's next to come. Before we start, I just want to start in the way that I've been told and taught to, which is to acknowledge where I am. So I'm speaking here from Ohlone territories. That's the people whose land I'm currently calling in from, who are engaged in ongoing anti-colonial organizing work, very much related to what we're talking about today. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our wonderful guests. I can't remember if I said my name. I'm Annie Banks, working with Justice Teams Network. I'm the network manager here. And we are honored and so pleased to have our guests with us today, Melanie Griffin and Guadalupe Chavez from Dignity and Power Now. And I will let them introduce themselves because they will do a much better job than me. So welcome, my friends. We are so grateful to have you here for the hour.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Daniel. And yeah, I'm sorry that Kat couldn't jump on. And also, you're doing a great job. And you always, save the day. So I have appreciated working with you and just learning your how grand your heart is and how you could, jump in and help out whenever necessary. So as Annie said, my name is Guadalupe Chavez. I'm the Director of Health and Wellness at DPN. I've been with DPN since 2012 as board member, and then in 2015, I came on as staff as a program director. And from then in 2017, I think it was, I took on the amazing role that I've enjoyed so much of Director of Health and Wellness. And working with Melanie has been a pleasure. We've been expanding our work, our healing justice work, and we're both healers, and I'll let them introduce themselves. But I am excited to be sharing space with Melanie today as well. In my outside of DPN, I have a private practice where I'm a therapist and I bring in earth medicine into our work. I work with individuals and families, and I think both at DPN in my role as a healing justice practitioner in general and my private practice, I'm always thinking about how I could help folks reconnect to the earth, and that's also a part of organizing work and a part of our healing, collective healing. And again, thanks, Annie and Melanie. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Melanie Griffin, and I'm the Deputy Director of Health and Wellness at Dignity and Power Now. I've been working as staff with Dignity and Power Now for 3 years, and I was a volunteer for 2 years before that. I am an artist, I'm a herbalist, I'm a chronically ill person, and thank you, Annie, for the land acknowledgement. We're here on Chumash and Tongva territory. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about healing justice with everybody. I apologize. I was having some Zoom trouble on my computer, so I'm on my phone and it's a little wobbly. So I might be adjusting a lot, but I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. This is amazing. Yeah, I have been so blessed to get to work with Guadalupe and more recently with Melanie, and I feel like I've learned such an incredible amount. So I'm not sure how much we can stuff into an hour, but I know it's going to be a lot. So let's get going. I would love first if you all could just share what is the work that you do with Dignity and Power Now and Justice Teams? Like, what has that looked like? What are the different arenas of healing justice that you're working in, and maybe either before or after? I think just giving people a definition of what is healing justice. I feel like we throw around words, and I just want to be sure that we're defining what we're talking about for folks who that might be the first time they've heard that term.
For sure. Thank you for the question. And as we begin, I want to honor us that we're all on this call. I'm not sure how many people are on the call or on Facebook, but I'm excited to be sharing this work, excited for our ancestors who are also excited to be sharing this work, and in the rooms with us, celebrating that we are reconnecting for in the name of justice, in the name of healing, in the name of uplifting our communities. And with that, I just want to share DPN. We are an LA-based grassroots organization. We're founded in 2012. We fight for the dignity and power of all incarcerated people and their families. Our mission is to build a Black and Brown-led abolitionist movement that's rooted in community power towards the goal of achieving transformative justice and healing justice for all incarcerated people, their families, and communities. And I want to begin with sharing the healing justice definition that we use. It comes from Terra Page, who, you know, in my own words, she's a mother of healing justice. Healing justice was first coined by reproductive justice organizations in the South, organizations like SONG, and many others, but others that I look to, BYP 100, Highlander Center, and again, a lot of them organized by Kara Page. So her definition that we adopt at DPN is healing justice is a framework that identifies how we can holistically respond to and intervene on intergenerational trauma and violence, and to bring collective practices that can impact and transform the consequences of oppression on our collective bodies, hearts, and minds. So I will, once Melanie begins to share, I will copy and paste that definition. For me, it's important to actually use her definition because we are part of this lineage that is, I want to just honor, you know, that we didn't invent anything, you know, that healing justice is for us an experiment of sorts. Healing justice has been a place where we can really think about how and what role healers and healing have in movement work. Historically, movement work often, you know, has been work until you can't work anymore, and, you know, not necessarily thinking about how we're building relationship with each other, or how we're building our organizations, or how we're building our movement work. And I think healing justice is a call to pause. It's a call to say, hey, how are we relating with each other? How are we going to not just call on families when we need a testimony, right? How do we build our families up from ground up throughout the entire time? So it incorporates the healing aspect and seeing organizing as part of healing. Let's see, in terms of my work with justice teams, I have had the pleasure of working with our network member organizations. So I've trained folks in Sacramento and Oakland, LA and Orange counties so far in our model that I'll go into in a little bit. But I have appreciated the justice team's platform that has really, I mean, the goal of justice teams is to spread our models of rapid response and healing justice and much more. But I really just want to mention that it's one of the few places where I find support as a rapid responder myself to connect to other rapid responders and families that are really trying to build up their families and their communities. So why healing justice, right? It's, as I said, it has to be, at this point, it has to be central to movement work. This framework uplifts ways that Black and Brown communities, queer communities, gender nonconforming or gender fluid communities have historically organized and healed our communities. So again, it's part of this lineage. We come from resilient communities. And I don't say that in a way where I'm, you know, saying we're so resilient so we can take more crap. No, it's actually honoring that the way that we organize communities and society is in a way that is naturally connecting to the earth, is naturally connecting and thinking about how we engage and learn from each other. Um, and it's not like this profit model system that we live in, right? It's really about uplifting the humanity and uplifting our earth. And that's, I think that's really important to us at DPN when we're organizing with other healers. We have specifically chosen to organize with traditional medicine folk, people that are Reiki practitioners, Ayurvedic medicine people, right? So we definitely organize with Western healthcare practitioners, but I think at DPN, what became very curious to Melanie and myself specifically is, what is the role of a traditional healer in movement work? Is there a role, and can traditional healers help build movements and help sustain them? So we'll go into our BR group a little bit more later, because I want Melanie, who leads this group, to share more about that. But I want to mention, well, I'll pause there and then we can go into our rapid response model.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Guadalupe. Melanie, did you want to talk a bit about what your work looks like with DPN? Oh, we can't hear you. You're muted.
So sorry. I said, sure, and I'll add a little bit about how I think about healing justice, which is when I learned that term, which was like when I first moved to LA 6 years ago, it was the first time where I felt like there was space for me to be in movement work. As someone who has had a lot of like physical and mental health issues, like thinking about organizing through healing really opened things up for me. And when I think about what we're fighting for, when I think about abolition and state violence, you know, even once we reach the goals that we're trying to reach, we'll still have the impact that these systems have left on our lives. And so healing justice is also about, you know, we can't just have the wins in policy and the wins in decarceration. We also have to address the wounds and all the harm that has been caused. I'm responsible for taking lead with Guadalupe's support for our programming. So what that looks like is we have a team of volunteers called Building Resilience. It's a group of, it started out as a group of like artists and academics, and now it's all sorts of people, just people from community who are interested in doing this work. And they help us carry out our programming because we're a relatively small team, but with Building Resilience, we're able to accomplish a lot. We have Freedom Harvest, which is a kind of pop-up art and wellness clinic outside of LA County jails. We bring out healers. We have art stations. We have wellness kits that have natural medicine that we've made as a team together. And then we hand those out. We try to support folks who are visiting their loved ones inside, because incarceration impacts the whole family, not just the person that's locked up. And it's a lot of stress and heartbreak for everyone involved. And it's also an opportunity to get people involved in the work. And we have wellness clinics, which are similar to Freedom Harvest, but not outside of the jails. And it's a place where we make healing and wellness a little more accessible. And we have different stations: acupuncture, massage, Reiki, card readings, all sorts of things. And sometimes for wellness clinics, we collaborate with other community organizations. Another program that I'm active in with DPN is called Family Meeting. And Family Meeting started 3 years ago. It was started by our coworker, Michelle Infante, who's amazing. We work with a lot of families who've had loved ones who were killed inside the county jails. And so that's how Family Meeting started, as sort of a support group for those families. And it's grown into this really powerful, beautiful group where it's part support, it's part organizing. Families are able to talk to each other about their cases. We always bring in a healer at the end. and it's just a really beautiful space. So let's see, that's building resilience, wellness clinic, family meeting. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Yeah, building resilience kind of is, I'll say a little more about that. It's like it's a group of volunteers, and it's also just like a peer group that's invested in learning about abolition and transformative justice and healing justice and developing each other's skills and yeah, learning and growing and building together. So that's where the majority of my work is with DPN, is in those areas.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Melanie.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Guadalupe. You had mentioned sharing about the rapid response model. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Now that I'm not as nervous, I'm like, so going back to BR, and then I'll move into the rapid response model. I love building resilience, and our folks there, our healers, have really helped me ground in the work in a way that has made it sustainable for me, because there's a lot of grief that we deal with outside of the jails. When Melanie is talking about, having this pop-up art and wellness pop-up outside the jails, it's really we create a healing portal, a safe place for people outside of these jails, outside of these very violent sites, and which are in our community, in Linwood, California, which is just about maybe 15 minutes from downtown LA. It's one of the green spaces. The jail is actually one of the green spaces within that city of Linwood. So it's a very complicated, when we think about prisons and jails, it's very complicated. It's layered, and there is no good in it, and so when we're talking to people outside of the jails, most of the time, I would say 50% of the time, folks are not able to see their loved ones, and so we see them in tears. We see the children in tears. That's where we meet them. We meet them in a place of crisis, and the portal that we create isn't changing the system per se, but it is definitely an interruption to the violence. And so moving into our rapid response, it's led by politicized healers. And for me, this is extremely important. It's not just about connecting therapists to families. Yes, that is very needed and very important. But what's even a more long-term important in terms of our movement work is politicizing healers, letting them know that there's a space, like Melanie said, there's a space for healers, there's a need. And again, it's not so that we can sustain the trauma that that folks are feeling, but actually transform it. In the toolkit, which if you all can actually connect to it, like put it in the chat, would be great, and then I can do it after. In the toolkit that we created, there's two toolkits that I want to highlight. The first one is the Anti-Police Terror Project First Responders Training Guide. And I know that, I'm not necessarily a rep for APTP, but I just want to say that this is where a lot of my learning came from and my training came from. Again, I love honoring lineage here, so that's a toolkit I really recommend if you're a rapid responder, and having APTP trainings in your area would be a good first step to learning this work. And then we at DPN created our own toolkit, a healing justice toolkit, and we published that in English and Spanish, because language justice is part of healing justice, and it should be in multiple languages, and we'll get there one day. But we published ours last year, and as I mentioned earlier, I spent the year of 2018 sharing this model with folks across the state. So a couple of things I want to highlight about this model. In the toolkit, there's a section on building your core team. So this incorporates listeners. It can be counselors, therapists, or it could just be really bomb listeners that know how to hold space, compassionate space, active listeners, police de-escalators, nurse or doctor or street medic, if you have access to that, that's really important as well. And then other practitioners and healers. So again, energy workers, if you are connected to your elders in your community, this is a great place for them to incorporate them into the work. Whether it's, you know, during crisis or after, but elders play a very important role in our community. So we have access, plugging them in. And these key roles are in addition to the team that APTP suggests in their toolkit that also includes trauma-informed investigators, legal and media engagement liaisons, interpreters, among other roles. The other section I want to highlight is the section on street rapid responses. So we have a protocol for centering healing during trauma. This includes an assessment that your team conducts before getting to the site, and an assessment that you take once you have arrived to the site, and then the aftercare for both your rapid response team and for the families and community that you're working with. The aftercare is as important as arriving to the site, ready to go, ready to, you know, de-escalate police violence, etc. I think this is what makes our model unique or important is that we have programs, right, that Melanie just went into, that we have programs that we can plug people into, and we have brilliant campaigns that we can plug people into as well. Again, every moment is an opportunity to center healing, and long-term building with families gives them an opportunity to heal through organizing and campaign work, and through community building with other people that are going through the same thing. So at DPN, and then I'll pause, at DPN, we mostly work with families who have had their loved ones killed inside of the jails. So if you can imagine the amount of grief, terror that our families live with every single day, these are the kinds of conversations we're having with our healers. How do we hold that type of grief? And how do we also take care of ourselves while we're holding it, you know? And there isn't, I mean, that's why the BR group is so special, because they're willing to go outside of the jail site and offer their care and offer their love. I could never, you know, be tired of uplifting our BR folks. So I'm going to pause there. Melanie, do you want to add anything in terms of the vigils? Maybe you want to mention the vigils that we do as part of the rapid response, but also just vigils in general that we do with our families. I think that's part of the long-term building.
Yeah, it's you know, it's important to memorialize and make a space for us to kind of touch into that grief and work through the grief and terror and rage and all the feelings that state violence, you know, brings up. And so, and in general, we really feel like spirituality and spirit and giving that a place in movement work and in this kind of organizing is important. And so the vigils are a space to do that. Sometimes we have them outside of the jail, usually Twin Towers. We've had them at the beach, and it's a chance just for us, for the family members, to remember their loved ones, and also, you know, think about how this loss has led to what we're building, and the ways it's politicized the people, you know, politicized the family members who've lost their loved ones, and just share that love and share memories. Another thing that we do that Guadalupe touched on is we try to link people up with healers as a part of the rapid response work. And something that we're both really excited about that can come from that is people, we don't want it to just be like, okay, so you're going to see this person, they're going to give you this thing, you know, or they're going to give you this experience that will help you for that amount of time, and then you're on your own. We really want to share skills with people and learn the things that other people that people are already doing in their lives to have resilience, and the healing that they have in their communities already. And we want it to be an exchange. And there's a family member who comes to family meeting, and she's working with one of our healers doing like breath work and meditation, and then she's sharing that with other organizations that she's a part of, and she's sharing that with her community members. And that just like brings me a lot of joy and excitement to think about spreading these tools and exchanging these tools. So.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. I have so many follow-up questions, but one that I wanted to sort of start with, Melanie, if you're open to it, I'm curious about what you said when you mentioned that healing justice made it feel like you could be in the movement. I don't mean to ask you to share personally necessarily, but I'm very interested in that question of like organizing as healing justice and healing justice as organizing. And I wonder if you could speak a little more to, what do you think healing justice offers in terms of a place for people, or a pathway for more people to become involved in organizing? And what does healing justice offer to our organizing in terms of, how does it strengthen and broaden our movements?
Sure. I think those are excellent questions. Those are big questions. I'm going to try to speak on some of them at least. So I grew up my whole life dealing with, oh my gosh, so cute. I grew up my whole life experiencing a lot of chronic illnesses and health issues that led me to have lots of surgeries and medical trauma. And I think for a long time, I just thought because of those things that I've experienced and the way that they impacted me, that I couldn't get involved the way I saw other people do movement work, which was like being out on the street, like putting your body out there on the line, which, is a courageous thing to do. And I'm so appreciative of, our like movement warriors who are out there in that way. And, actually kind of going back to the anti-police terror training network training that we had a few years ago, and that model of the team, there's different roles. We all have different roles to play. And learning about healing justice just helped me to see an area where my role can be. I think that healing justice, like Guadalupe said, that having healers in our movement is important, and it's been important. It's been something that's happened, in the different movements. There's always been healers involved, and so reflecting on that, it just made me feel like, okay, there is space for me. There's space for me to try to uplift my community and to try to work towards abolition in ways that are, how do I say this? I don't want to say softer, but in ways that are like nourishing. I'll say that, in ways that are nourishing, and in ways that are like accessible to folks who are dealing with different kinds of stuff. And so, and I think that, when we're outside of the jails and we're hearing people's stories, healing justice provides like an entryway, because we're listening, we're holding space, we're linking people up with healers. And once people, start to receive that nourishment and start to tap into their own resilience, then they have more space to be like, what's happening to my loved ones isn't okay. And with the support of like a team, or with the support of a healer, or with the idea that I need to center my own healing and care, and center my community's care, I now have the capacity to fight harder. You know what I mean? And so that's a way that we're able to provide people with the support they need to show up at the COC meetings, Civilian Oversight Commission meetings, the Board of Supervisor meetings, and share their really important stories, and try to, get the get the county to make moves to support our community. So does that answer some of it? I think I got a little lost in the laundry.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just think it's what you said is so powerful, like that healing justice creating more of an opening for folks who maybe didn't see themselves in movement work when it's clearly so needed. And I think, Guadalupe also touched on this sort of the incredible capacity potential offered through healing justice for organizing work. Like, what does it mean to incorporate healing more fully so that movement work can include more people, can move forward more wholly. So thank you so much. I wanted to follow up just with a general question to you both. Yes, and as one of our attendees said, yeah, thank you for sharing your personal experience as well. I really appreciate it. What have been some of the challenges of incorporating a healing justice framework into your work? And also, what have been some of the successes? I feel like you've shared a lot of successes, so I want to lift those up. But if you have any, ones that you want to especially lift up, please do. But yeah, what have been sort of the challenges and the successes of using this framework in your work?
I can start. So I think the biggest success that I want to highlight is where the work is at right now. So 5 years into it, Melanie and myself and our team of BR folks, with the support of the entire staff at DPN, who's always very supportive of our work and trying to figure out in ways that we can collaborate as campaigns and healing and wellness. And I feel like that's really key, so that's, I wasn't going to say this one, but that's a success too, is the fact that we have an organization that was founded on abolition, healing justice, and transformative justice. I feel like that just gave us the foundation that we needed to explore all of these pillars, or as we call them, or values, principles. So that's a success in itself right there, to be honest. The other success that I want to mention is our families support meeting and the work that our organizer Michelle does and our organizer James and Michael do. And up to most recently also Regi was doing with our families. We're at a place where our families can, like Melanie said, there's skill sharing happening amongst themselves, right? Because at the end of the day, they know their stories the best. They know how to advocate for each other. They know how to give each other legal advice. They know how to push back at the coroner. They know, all this knowledge that's so needed when your loved one is killed. They have it, they're the wisdom holders in this space. And then with the support of the healers that we bring in and the support of our organizers, the healing that is able to happen, the witnessing, right? So all of this for me is like foundation for what's next. What else can we do together? And one of the visions that we've had is how do we get and when I say we, really from our families, it's like, I want to help more families. I don't want this to keep happening to families. I want to stop this. I want to end the fact that people are killed inside of these jails, disappeared, and we don't know what happened or why or when, things happen to our loved ones. They're ready to organize. They're ready to stop this violence. So you take all of what I just said as foundation, and we organize with them in a way where they can organize strategically with more families, where they can continue doing their skill share, but at the same time building up their skills to become their own rapid response network, right? So right now we have our rapid response network, our healers that we connect with. And it's like, why not bring them together? Why not build more strategically the skills of our families who are more than ready and willing to go out and respond to their community's needs, right? And it just happened this week where one of our healers came back from a family meeting, and a Zoom family meeting. But we had a check-in, and it was like, you know, this family is ready to talk more to more families again. So why not take this opportunity to figure out how to strengthen rapid response work with people that are impacted as the leads, as the leaders, because they're the healers. They're the ones that are the organizers as well. So I think that's a success for me. You know, 5 years into it, it's like, oh wow, we're so ripe and ready for something bigger. Challenges, and then I'll pause because I'd love to hear Melanie's thoughts on this too. Is yeah, healing is a long process, and we're all in our own healing at the same, you know, in different places. I know for me, as both a healer and as an organizer, there are moments where I don't feel like getting up in the morning. I don't feel like, you know, opening the blinds. I don't feel like seeing the sunshine myself, because of the amount of grief that I hold, you know, with having my own stories around incarceration in my family, and then carrying this co-carrying the stories with the families, and so I feel like that's one of the challenges is to stay connected to the work in a way that's uplifting, for myself, that's uplifting for the Building Resilience members, for our staff, and for our families and communities. Yeah, I'll pause there.
Yeah, I definitely think that a big success is family meeting. I love family meeting. I think it's such a beautiful space, and I've learned so much from being in that space, and I feel like I see a lot of learning going on in that space. Another success is the learning that goes on in building resilience. Last year, at the end of the year, we kind of did like end of the year interviews with our building resilience folks, just to see like what their experience had been like, and to get feedback. And a handful of people talked about how building resilience was a space that affirmed their values and allowed them to sort of live, you know, live their values more. And I just thought that was so powerful and beautiful. And sometimes, you know, I feel like in nonprofits, you can get caught up in the bureaucratic parts, or the emails and the things like that, and it starts to feel maybe like, what am I even doing? And then I hear that, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to help facilitate a space where people can live their values and grow their values around transformative justice, healing justice, and abolition. I think some challenges have been kind of what Guadalupe was saying, like it's hard to hold a lot of these stories, and to witness this violence. Like, I'm honored to do it, you know, I'm honored to do it, but it is hard. And as much as our organization centers healing justice, and as much as we know that that there are ways that we have to operate to make this work sustainable, I think that just the inherent nature of nonprofits and of capitalism, you know, there's this, even not consciously but subconsciously, there's this kind of push to be like, okay, go, and not necessarily check in and be like, okay, do I really have the capacity to do this? And there's the struggle between wanting to show up and be accountable and be there for community, be there for the families we work with, and also take care of myself, which can feel ironic, you know, because it's like, okay, I'm the deputy director of health and wellness, and we're centering these things, but it's still something that I think, you know, the folks on my team, that we struggle with, because we know that the issues that we're dealing with are so urgent and so important. We really want to be there as much as we can, but sometimes that's difficult.
Thank you, Melanie. I want to add one thing, Annie. I saw Trudy, our beloved healing justice organizer, type in a comment that I want to highlight. as the great organizer that she is, we're always looking for more folks. So if you are LA based, or actually at this point, because everything has gone digital, if you're a healer, a social worker, a therapist, a nurse, and you want to be involved, we're always looking for more folks, especially therapy,
Artists.
to be honest, artists.
Yeah.
So thank you, Trudy, for that reminder. And I do just want to highlight another success is that our campaign work through Justice LA and the Civil Oversight Commission work that we do is always bringing in wellness and healing of our peoples into their campaign work. So that's a huge win for us as a department, because we're not pushing an agenda on our own, and they're doing the hard work of advocacy and policy on local, state, nationwide, levels. And so I think that's also a big win for us. And I hope that you go to our website at DPN and learn more about our campaign work as well.
And I'll put that link in there, or maybe someone just did. But before I do, I wanted to, this just flowed so well from what you were saying previously, Melanie. There's a question for you from one of our audience members. Melanie, I love your use of the word nourishment and how it is so necessary to lift people up in order to be more involved in organizing work. What are some of the best ways that you have found to incorporate nourishing practices into organizing work? Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I was thinking about what I said. I don't want to imply that like movement work that's like out on the street, like that our movement warriors, that's not nourishing. Like they're different, different roles can be nourishing for different people at different times. So I just wanted to put that out there. But I think that practices that help nourish when we're doing the work are grounding, just like checking in, seeing how people are doing, making sure that whenever we're in a space that we open it intentionally, that we close it intentionally, checking in with our volunteers and making sure that they're not overextending themselves, that they're receiving the nourishment that they need to keep working with us and to keep doing the amazing work that they're doing, bringing in spirit, bringing in, plant medicine. Those are all things that help me in my personal life and that, communities have used since the beginning of time, and that I think have also been really integral to continuing to do this work.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melanie. And then just leading off, and I also want to just put it out there again, please, if people have questions, I cannot believe that 48 minutes has already gone by in this conversation. But please send in questions if you have them before we have to end our time with our friends. But relating to something you said, Guadalupe, about how many things are going virtual right now, I'm just curious, what does your work look like in this time with COVID-19 and not being able to gather? I know you and I and Melanie have had conversations about the challenges of not being able to do in-person work, but I see you both navigating that, and I'm just so interested in how you've managed to maintain connection with the families you work with, organizers, all the folks that you are in community with.
Yes. So I think this, has been one of the most challenging things personally at my work, and even as a practitioner outside of DPN, not to be able to meet people in person, not to be outside of the jails. I've had visions of like, should we wear hazmat suits and gloves and all the things and go outside those jails, because eventually, folks will be allowed to go back in, and what's our plan, our response plan, our care plan for that. So those are just my daydreams that I have to have in order to not get completely, disheartened that we can't do our face-to-face anymore with our family meeting. Folks have asked like, hey, when is family meeting gonna happen again in person? So we have gone digital. We do everything on Zoom or Google Hangout, things like that. folks are still being connected to healers, the same healers that we would use, that we would invite into our work, are still, and even more willing, I think, at this moment to show up for our families. So everything from, I mean, obviously we can't do acupuncture through a computer screen, but that has shifted to acupressure and self-massage. Reiki and sound bowls are happening online as well. And right now, I think they've only been happening in like one-on-one, but our plan is to do monthly healing sessions that are open to the public, centering our families, centering formerly incarcerated people, centering folks from our other programs. So that will be happening, I think, starting in June, if I'm correct. We usually have our summer series, which is like the most active time for us at DPN, or not at DPN, and in our department. We are outside of 5 different jail sites, including an immigration detention center, a juvenile hall. And so we're having to recreate how we connect with folks. We're going to do an online concert and a panel. And so that will be the series that we offer, in addition to the monthly Freedom Harvest that I just mentioned, which is healing sessions for the community. And yeah, we're just, responding as best as we can to this time. People are still being killed inside of the jails, as we know, outside of the jails. The same folks that were being killed before are being killed now. There's a lot of rage. It's very hard to be this rageful in my tiny, room in my 2-bedroom apartment by myself or with my family, and not in community, So I think, checking in as a team. Our team checks in a lot every week, in part because that's part of the care, that we can offer. And our healers are constantly checking in with our families as well, over the phone or through Zoom as well. I think that answers the question, but Melanie, if I missed anything, you can add.
I'm sorry, I missed the question a little bit. Was it about like how has the work transformed? Yeah. I've been trying to focus on the ways that it's made it more accessible in some ways. Like LA County is huge, and even just LA the city is huge, and not everyone has a car, and it's hard to make it to meetings when you're just living your life. And so having meetings online has actually upped the participation in some areas. So I'm super grateful for that. And like Guadalupe said, we've been having people work with healers online, which at first kind of feels very limiting, but I actually feel like it kind of just allows us to focus on other areas. So instead of people getting in-person body work, there's been more of a focus on meditation and breath work and things like that. And those are like, it's, I don't know, like I don't think it can be understated how important breath work can be in healing. And so I'm excited that's been going on. And but it's true, the family, I've been hearing a lot like, when are we gonna have a family meeting in person? And I can't wait to be able to be in person with folks and give hugs and all of that. But for the time being, we're trying to figure out, just trying to make it work. And yeah, there's a lot of, we're in a global pandemic. There's a lot of stress and grief just on a whole like global community level. It's like a scary time. And but that also makes it a time to really dig into all of these things, like not even just healing justice, like seeing the amazing work that Justice LA is doing right now in terms of decarceration and trying to get people out of the jails, because they're already a public health threat, and then now with COVID it's like extra. So I'm trying to focus on the ways that this kind of leads us into kind of I don't know, even more of a I don't know how to say what I'm saying, but more of a focus on what we're doing, if that makes sense.
I want to mention how our organizing has shifted. So, as you know, we just mentioned, we usually are out on the ground, organizing with folks outside the jails or at wellness clinics at neighborhoods. But how we've organized in the last couple of months, and it's really been led by Trudy, our healing justice organizer. I'm really excited that we have that position now, starting January of this year. Trudy led a organizing effort to call over 200 people from our call lists. We did a training. Well, actually, Trudy and an ally, a beloved ally, did a training for our Building Resilience folks who wanted to do phone banking. And from there, they made the calls, and basically we have gained members, during this time. And folks that are interested are going to be participating in an orientation tomorrow. So if you go into our Facebook, DPN Facebook, our event is there. It's an orientation to learn more about our organization and also how to plug into the healing and wellness work. So as Melanie said, there has been new opportunities, and we've definitely taken advantage of those. While we also uplift and deepen conversations with our families and with ourselves about what does COVID-19 mean like for our organizing efforts? What does this mean for healing justice, and how we keep growing that framework and that work and that experiment? And to me, it's an opportunity to deepen conversations about how we want to reorganize our communities to be more sustainable, to be more life-giving, to really center interdependence. So in some ways, this has been an opportunity to talk to our families about how do we do the work? How do we build relationships, sacred relationships with each other, where we know state violence is going to be happening. So how do we not always be in the defense of state violence, but how do we rethink and create new ways of organizing our community so that the impact is either lessened or we think about food networks, we think about mutual aid networks, right, within our communities, within our family communities, at least to start with. So I think this has been an opportunity to deepen really important and needed conversations.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. I can't believe we're almost at time. Before we head out, I want to be sure that folks can plug in with Dignity and Power Now. I posted the Facebook, we've posted the website. I also did see Trudy give a shout out that there's an online concert coming soon. I don't know if either of you have more details, but are there other trainings people should know about, upcoming events, ways that folks can plug in if they want to volunteer or get involved, or if they're a healer? How can folks get connected with you?
You want me to share, Melanie?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, if you're a healer or you're interested in learning more about our work, for sure, the Facebook and the DPN website is a good first place. Melanie and myself and Trudy are also available. We can put our emails down if that's helpful. And in terms of the online concert and the healing sessions, the monthly ones, I would check our Facebook for those. We do have tentative dates, but we're also, still in the planning stages of those. So honestly, I think the Facebook calendar page would be the best in terms of keeping in the loop with our work. If you want to connect directly to one of us, we're also super available. I think, one of the most brilliant experiences I've had in the last 5 years has been training more folks in this model. I absolutely love it. It gives me so much life to connect to other impacted families and be able to share this model and be able to grow it, and not just think about healing justice as a response to this kind of state violence, because state violence has many arms, right? Gender violence, all kinds of hands. So I would say if you're interested in the training, connect to Justice Teams Network and connect to DPN.
Thank you, Guadalupe. Melanie, did you want to say anything in our, really, time's up, but let's take one more minute just so that you can close things out in a good way.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're having an orientation tomorrow at 1, and it's just going to be kind of more introduction into DPN and the work that our department does. So if you are a healer interested in working with us, a community member who feels like this work speaks to you, you want to get involved in a family meeting, because we're all online, you don't even have to be in LA. So I think that tomorrow could be a good way to get to know us more and see if you want to get involved.
Amazing. And can folks find that info on your Facebook? Is that the best place to go?
Yeah.
Great. Oh my gosh. Thank you, friends. This has been incredible. I'm so grateful for all of your time and work and energy. Thank you to everyone who came and took part and watched and asked wonderful questions. Just a reminder, we are back next week and will be for the foreseeable future. It looks like we're going into July with this series. And special shout out to my co-partner here for holding down childcare while this webinar was happening. So thank you all again so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I love your family.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So sweet.
Thank you for having us. This series is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
We'll post this on the website so this is an ongoing resource, because this is an incredible resource. I'm so grateful that you've helped create such a long-lasting thing that people can listen to again and again. So we'll have that up soon. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank y'all so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.